Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. So today we have another brand new figure that has just released from PNSO. They have honestly been spoiling us for quite an extended period of time with amazing figures, and this time we've got another awesome looking figure as we have the Giganotosaurus. Now they have released a Giganotosaurus in the past, and we now have this version, which is a more updated, more modern take on the species, and honestly, I think it looks great from what we can see here on the box. Really excited about this. I've actually had it here for a little while, but unfortunately I was on vacation. If you happen to have missed my news video where I mentioned that yesterday, I was on vacation for the last week and didn't have a chance to actually get this up for review before leaving, so now we have the opportunity. So as far as the box art goes, you can see that it basically is just a shot of the Giganotosaurus here on the front of the box, and then you have your standard information here on the side. Even though it's upside down currently, you can see again Lucas the Giganotosaurus 1/35th scale, and you can actually get a better look at it in the correct position on this side. And then you don't really have a whole lot else going on. You know, you have your standard stuff that you usually have when it comes to PNSO releases. So let's pop it out of the box and check it out. So first of all, we've got this packet full of all kinds of awesomeness because this is a museum release, which means you usually get some extra stuff in it. And you can see here we have it sealed with the skull of a Giganotosaurus as well as the PNSO logo right there. So let's go ahead and pull that off nice and carefully, and we actually did not rip it. That's pretty impressive. So once we open this up, put this stuff down right here. I think there's a little bit more in here yet, but I did not pull out initially. So first of all, we've got ourselves some cards here that obviously tell you quite a bit about the Giganotosaurus, and we've seen this kind of stuff in the past when it comes to PNSO releases. If I could pull this open here, you'll get a good idea as far as what I'm talking about with these cards. Apparently I'm not very good at getting them out of there, but you can see that we start with some information on the dinosaur, and as you move through, you have tons of these cards that just continue to basically inform you and teach you all about the species. And then at the end, you have some stuff that you can basically write down. You can take notes, whatever you want to do. You can include those on the final pages of that. And of course, we're not going to read all of it, but I do want to show it to you guys. Reading it, of course, would be up to you when you purchase the model. But then you also have a booklet here, and this is pretty much what you usually get for a PNSO release. You get that standard, really cool booklet. You can see that nice, very stylized image there of the Giganotosaurus in black and white. And as we continue to move through, you have all kinds of information. You usually have some more images and stuff. Now, obviously, this is a very different looking version of a Giganotosaurus compared to the one that we have, because this is just some beautiful artwork by PNSO, not the figure itself. And then you get all kinds of really cool images and everything of the figure as you move through, and that continues as you move the entire way through the booklet. Lots of really cool stuff in here, all kinds of really fun things to read. And of course, really cool images. Then, as we move through, so these are the sheets where you can basically draw your own dinosaurs, and they usually give you quite a few of these, so let's kind of try to decipher what is what here. There we go. I think I got them all separated now. So you again do get quite a few. You can see definitely quite a few sheets there to draw on if you choose to. And then we move into the kind of like poster section of the pack. And as you can see, we've got an incredible image right there of the head of a Giganotosaurus, and it looks super cool. I love the fact that it has like those quills running along the back. I actually would not have minded seeing that on the Giganotosaurus figure that we have here. And then the next one is looking to be another shot of a head of a Giganotosaurus. I would honestly say an even better looking image there of the Giganotosaurus. Again, PNSO's artwork is pretty much unmatched. Like, they really have amazing artwork continuously. And then as we move through, we can kind of see a nice little shot here of the teeth of a Giganotosaurus as well. Then our next image obviously is giving us a look at the hand of a Giganotosaurus. I'm not sure which way I should hold it. I guess we'll go like this. You can see basically what the hand of a Giganotosaurus looks like, the amount of digits, and also kind of an idea of what the skin texture would look like on said species as we move through. I always love this. You can honestly create your own exhibit when it comes to, and I think that's kind of the point of it, but you can create your own exhibit for, a Giganotosaurus if you choose to. If you're such a big fan of the species, you can create an entire shrine basically dedicated to the dinosaur. If you get one of these museum series releases, you can again get a look at what the foot sculpt here of a Giganotosaurus looks like. Again, really beautiful, really high quality images throughout, and you can obviously see there is a lot of them. Then we've got this very cool image of an Acrocanthosaurus, and I actually really like that paint scheme. I mean, color scheme, I shouldn't say paint scheme, but that color scheme is beautiful. But also just in general, the artwork there is beautiful of the Acrocanthosaurus. As we move through, we open this up to look at the coloration on that. That is beautiful. I may have to borrow that paint scheme at some point for a model that I would paint, because I just really love that patterning and that design. The really cool little blue around the eye. Look at how beautiful that looks. That is incredible, incredible artwork, but man, that is a beautiful paint scheme. Definitely a fan of that one for sure. And then as we move through, they deliver potentially an even cooler paint scheme on this one. Now I might want to borrow this paint scheme because I really like this one as well. PNSO is very good at coming up with colorations on their dinosaurs that look flashy yet natural. I would actually like to see PNSO, paint a dinosaur model like this. Like, that's not that complicated of a paint scheme. It definitely looks like something that would be very doable. Even more of this striping through the course of the body would look really cool. But I just love the way that the colors play off of each other. Even that nice coloration there running along the top of the head. Man, the artwork of PNSO is amazing. And then as we continue to move through, this time we've got ourselves a nice Allosaurus, and yet again the artwork is phenomenal. The coloration, of course, of this one looks really nice as well, but it's nothing that's to write home about, but the artwork in general absolutely is. That is just insanely nice looking as far as an Allosaurus goes, and the artwork is honestly, every single image they give you is frame-worthy. That's how impressive the artwork of a PNSO release always is. And then we've got ourselves a nice shot of a Torvosaurus with, again, really cool colors on it. Like, look at the variation of color right there. Just so much beautiful, but yet incredibly realistic coloration. I even love the little bit of drool kind of hanging off of the mouth of the Torvosaurus. And then as we move through, we start to get kind of some bigger images here. As we get hold of this one, you can now see again that we have the Giganotosaurus kind of title here and showing you what you would use for your scientific art exhibition. And then as we move through, the next one is... wow, potentially one of the coolest images that I've ever seen, and I would have really liked to have seen their Giganotosaurus kind of modeled after this with that little bit of feathering at the end of the tail. That looks super cool, and again, really nice coloration. Doesn't look super flashy, but I just love those kind of stripes there in the face and in the palate area. That is, again, drop-dead gorgeous artwork. And then as we move through, we've now got a really cool size chart. You can see a few different dinosaurs up here as far as what species we have listed, like Carcharodontosaurus, Eocarchari, and stuff like that. Of course, next to our Giganotosaurus. And then as we move to the next one, we have another really cool shot of a Giganotosaurus. Again, really, really nice looking artwork. Really strong yellows on that image, though. Almost took over the entire camera there with a yellowish kind of a glare, with a yellowish kind of a tint. And then as we move through, we've got this really cool image showing an absolutely massive Argentinosaurus next to a Giganotosaurus here, and giving us an idea, again, of what they would have looked like in comparison to each other. And pretty impressive that Giganotosaurus probably fed on Argentinosaurus at times. And then as we move through, you also have this really cool Maposaurus image. Look at that. That is awesome. Again, like I said, absolutely frame-worthy. Like, there is no doubt about it. That is definitely a frame-worthy image that you would, without question, want up on your wall. There's so many cool posters that I've acquired from these PNSO releases over the years that I could honestly fill an entire room, every single wall, with just PNSO posters. They always give you so much in these museum releases, and here we go again with a really, really beautiful Carcharodontosaurus image. Again, the actual dinosaur itself looks amazing, and I also love that kind of backdrop walking along the shoreline there with the moon just creeping through that really cool area of clouds up there. Phenomenal work on the part of PNSO when it comes to their artwork. And then the next one is not upside down like I thought it was at first. So this time we've got ourselves a Spinosaurus, kind of a resting Spinosaurus, which looks incredibly cool. And yet again is just amazing as far as the artwork goes, but also amazing at just how much stuff you get when you get one of these museum releases. And then we've got ourselves quite possibly the coolest looking Baryonyx I've ever seen, and I really think I might have to take that color scheme and apply it to a Baryonyx, because it really looks like that's its home. Like, it really looks like that's where that paint scheme belongs. That is an insanely cool Baryonyx. And then the final one that we have here is a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and that as well looks awesome. Really cool shot here, I guess, of Wilson, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So tons and tons of extras in here with the museum release of the Giganotosaurus. So, of course, we have our little stand here included as well with the Giganotosaurus, something that you usually get when it comes to a theropod from PNSO, just making sure it doesn't have any balancing issues. And then here is our Giganotosaurus itself, and that is absolutely one fantastic looking Giganotosaurus. The sculpt, as per usual when it comes to PNSO, is insanely highly detailed. Like, the skin wrinkles and stuff are always one of the things that stand out to me when it comes to a PNSO release and how impressive they are. But just in general, the paint application of this is beautiful. And one thing that I really want to do right now is actually bring in the box itself, because look at how pretty much spot on the paint job of the Giganotosaurus here, the actual factory released version, is compared to what you are advertised with when it comes to the box art. Like, that is pretty much identical. Maybe some slight, very slight differences when it comes to the actual like design of the stripes and spots and stuff, which is kind of what you would expect considering it's a hand painted figure. But it is a very rare occasion, in my opinion, when you'll get a figure that looks pretty much exactly as it is advertised in the original promotional images. So that really says a lot, in my opinion, about PNSO and the quality of their releases, especially, in particular, this Giganotosaurus. But again, I think it looks great overall here at first glance, so let's jump to a closer look at it right now. Starting up here at the head sculpt of the Giganotosaurus, you can see that we've got some really nice looking detail as well as some really nice looking paintwork. We've got all kinds of variation here of the scales and skin texture of the Giganotosaurus. You can see some really nice looking scales there around the eye area and the eye socket, some nice creasing there in the eye as well, kind of showing some slight movement to the eye. And then as you move through, you've got some really fine scales as you move out toward the palate and then back behind the eye area. And then as you lead toward the snout, toward the jawline and everything, and the nostrils, you can see that the size of the scales picks up drastically. We have some much larger scales out there. And the coloration, again, looks really nice throughout. There's all sorts of varying tones of color, as you obviously have some dark grays here running along the snout and the lower jaw here toward the tip of the lower jaw. But there's also kind of like a nice light wash, like a khaki wash, which is something PNSO often does, and I absolutely love it, because I really feel like it just adds another level of realism as well as quite a bit of depth to the paint jobs and makes them look so much more lifelike when it comes to adding in those nice washes. You can also see the nostrils have kind of like a light brown inside the nostril area, and then as you move back here toward the palate, you get some really nice variations of like reds and kind of like reddish browns and some lighter tones of brown as you move down closer to the jawline, and then some darker tones as you move up higher into the head. And then you see those same sort of tones there as you lead back along the course of the head and the eye area. You can also see we have a slightly darker tone there around the eye, kind of like that darker gray. Then you have more of that really nice, very appealing looking coloration here for the lower jaw, again, as we have some more of those lighter tones moving out and transitioning very smoothly to darker grays as you lead out here along the lower jaw. And you can really see again how nice those scales just pop with the way that they've been painted, and how smooth again that transition is as you lead out, and also how fine the scales are here for the lower jaw. And of course, as you can already tell, we do have an articulated jaw for the Giganotosaurus. The inside of the mouth definitely sports some very nice, very realistic coloration as well as detail. You can see the tongue is super highly detailed there as the tail drags along the backdrop. I like that we have a slightly alternate shade of like a pinkish tone for the tongue that differs from the lighter tone that we have here for the side of the mouth. And that looks like genuine skin stretching in there. That's super impressive. And they, of course, have that nice gloss coat added for that extra bit of realism, that kind of nice saliva-like look, which I do love as well. But that is super impressive detail. And you can see the inside of the mouth on the upper side as well. Wow. It doesn't get more highly detailed, I think, than that on the inside of the mouth of a dinosaur model. That is as awesome, honestly, and as realistic as it really does get. And the jaw works really well. Like, it's actually a little bit stiff, but not in a bad way. Like, you can see, you can position that jaw anywhere, and once you close it, it stays shut perfectly. The eye, even though it's quite small, is also painted very nicely. You can see no sloppiness at all when it comes to that eye paint. We also have this kind of lighter tone running along that crest area here on the top of the head of the Giganotosaurus. Same paintwork and everything over here. Very consistent, really, really well placed. Very precise paintwork throughout. And again, I just love how many varying tones of color and how smooth the transitions are that you see here in the face. It's just masterful paintwork. As you move here along the top of the head, you not only see again that kind of darker grayish tone with that light brown wash, but you can also see the really, really vibrant scale detail moving down the course of the body. We've got some creasing in the skin there. Moving down, you can see all kinds of skin wrinkles and skin creases moving down through the course of the throat, but also just generally along the course of the neck and even up here into the back of the dinosaur. And one thing PNSO, in my opinion, excels at is their sculpting and their ability to sculpt out so many skin wrinkles to just make it look as realistic and lifelike as possible. It honestly looks like a Giganotosaurus frozen in time here and brought to me, and obviously in model form. You can also see the ear right there, and again, really smooth transition as you move down from that grayish tone to that lighter coloration there for the throat. Moving down into the body, you've got some more nice wrinkles and creases there in the back of the arm there, leading into the body. Nice short arms like you would expect to see for your Giga. Some nice looking fingers sculpted out, kind of like some scoots running down those fingers. You can also see the nails are painted with kind of like a light gray. They as well look really nice, and you can really pick up on that kind of brownish wash in the arm right there. You can really also notice it as you move up here, especially toward the top. It really becomes super obvious, super visible, but I really do like that. You can also see the spinal column here moving along the back of the dinosaur. Some pretty decent girth here in the stomach region. It looks pretty well fed as a whole. Again, more wrinkles and creases as you move down through the course of the stomach, all the way leading back here into the leg, where you can see the thigh and the leg in general pulling the skin, stretching the skin off of the stomach. More variation of color here in the stomach region, again, as we have the browns, but as we lead up, you kind of see like some slight reddish tones. There's also kind of like a black that designs and squiggles through, and you do see more of that black showing up here in the upper part of the dinosaur, as you have kind of like some stripes and stuff leading out. Not exactly like not any type of specific design other than a few stripes as you move down, but you can also see some random areas of it kind of designing and striping and spotting through the course of the body. Some more creasing in front of the hip region. The hip as well is highlighted in the sculpt, and as you move down, the leg looks massive in the thigh area. Again, very impressive, very muscular looking thigh. As you move down, there's also some more skin wrinkles leading along the back of the leg. Again, incredibly smooth transition moving back. You can clearly see that the dinosaur is walking. The toes are currently leaving the ground, and this leg is trailing, as that leg is pretty much about to support the entire weight of the dinosaur because this leg is picking up. But you can also see that the calf muscle is flexing and bulging very nicely. The kneecap as well is present there on the front of the leg, and as you move down, you again have really nice looking paintwork. It is honestly as impressive as it can get when it comes to a dinosaur model and the realism aspect. And another thing that I really love is when PNSO adds that kind of light brown wash to the feet of the dinosaurs. You can see they've done that yet again here with the Giganotosaurus, and I think it just highlights everything really nicely. I just love that sort of dirty type of a look to the feet of the dinosaurs, just exactly what I would see on like an emu in a zoo. So it, on top of looking very bird-like, looks also very realistic. You can also see the dew claw is present, which you can't see it currently on this side. Well, you can kind of see it poking out of the back here. but you can see it on the opposing leg. And then as you lead up, again, more creasing and wrinkling and everything here back behind the thigh. As you lead out into the tail, you continue to see those stripes running down the course of the body. They kind of spread out a little bit as you lead out into the tail. They're not super, super dark stripes. They're kind of subtle as far as the way they're applied, so they're not like overly dark or anything. It looks really nice and really realistic, I think. Really nice curve to the tail as you lead out as well. You can see even a slight curve from up above. The opposing side isn't going to have too much difference compared to what we had just seen on the initial side. The neck isn't turned too drastically. You can see a slight turn to the right, but you can also see again the same type of detailing as far as the skin wrinkles and skin creasing and everything. You can basically make out like some kind of tensing in the neck right there as well, especially when you look at it from up above. But as you move down into the course of the body, you can see the arm is in a slightly different position compared to what we see on the opposing side, slightly more forward, and again, the detailing, the paintwork, everything looks just as awesome over here as it did on the initial side. All of the same type of detailing moving back here toward the stomach, except once you reach here, you do see a lot more skin wrinkles and skin creases because this leg is taking a step further forward, and it would obviously be wrinkling that, skin up there in the stomach region and creasing it, and you see that perfectly and very nicely sculpted out here on the model. Again, you see some more of that darker tone kind of designing through and stuff, more of the stripes, some spots and stuff throughout as you move through, some creasing in front of the hip area. Again, the hip itself is very nicely elaborated, and again, you can see that same style of paintwork where they've done a great job of giving it that kind of brownish wash where it just really highlights all of the scale detail in the absolute most realistic way possible. And then as you move down, creases galore again as you lead toward the joint of the knee. The kneecap itself again is highlighted nicely. This foot is obviously planted as the dinosaur walks along because that leg is about to take a step up and leave the ground. Again, super bird-like foot sculpt right there. Really nicely sculpted toes, nicely sculpted nails, and painted nails with that light gray. You can see some scoots running down the front of the foot as well. And then as we lead back up, a little bit of skin stretching off of the tail here as the leg pulls forward, and then we lead out again, some more creases and stuff, but the paintwork looks very nice, very precise, just like it did on the initial side. Again, really smooth transitions down, just insanely beautiful all around. And then as you lead back here through the underside, you can see all of the detail is super crisp, really nicely done. The cloaca is present, really nice looking scale detail as well when you move along the underside of the figure. Very reptilian sort of looking scale detail here on the underside of the Giganotosaurus. Wow, that honestly is an awesome looking figure, and even though I was pretty hyped for it, I thought it looked pretty nice. I was almost a little bit off-put by the use of the grays and everything on it again, because we've had quite a few theropods in the grayish color scheme in the past from PNSO, and I didn't feel like anything about this paint scheme really stood out in a major way, but having it here in person, it is just really nicely applied, really naturally applied. It looks like the genuine coloration of a Giganotosaurus, and I specifically love the reddish tones in the face, so definitely a much bigger fan of the paint scheme on it here in person, but I knew I was going to love the sculpt regardless, so honestly it is probably one of the nicest Giganotosaurus figures that I've ever seen. Really well done by PNSO. Another thing that's of course always, a concern when it comes to a theropod, especially one that doesn't come with a base or anything like that, is how good it can stand, how good it can balance, and you can definitely see the Giganotosaurus stands really nicely. Like, I don't see any balancing issues with this one at all. I feel like it's even more stable than your usual PNSO release. But of course, if it does have any problems, you always get that stand to prop it up, just in case. But as far as a size goes, lengthwise, you are looking at about 14 inches, almost on the dot, or about 35.5 centimeters. And then for a height to the back of the neck, you're looking at about 3 3/4 inches, or around a little over 9.5 centimeters, closing in on 10. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our PNSO Giganotosaurus. And you can see it's not massive. It is a little bit smaller, honestly, than I was kind of expecting it to be. But that being said, it is still a pretty darn nice, quite impressive size as a whole, without being too huge that takes up too much room on your shelf. It's a very conveniently sized Giganotosaurus because it's really nicely sized, definitely impressive as far as the size goes, and a size range that would really stand out on your shelf, but without it being too large overall. And now we get into the size comparisons with other PNSO releases. Now you can see the size comparison next to the original Giganotosaurus from PNSO. And honestly, even though I really love the newer one, I'm not sure which one I like more because I'm actually a huge fan of the older one as well. I think both look great, and I like that they're very similar in coloration, which I somehow didn't notice. I didn't realize just how similar the color schemes are of both of these. They definitely look really neat next to each other. The older one is a little bit larger than the newer one. You can definitely see that, especially if we put them next to each other. You can see that the newer one is a little bit smaller overall, but they still look super cool together. And either way, it's honestly two incredible Giganotosaurus models. We've also got ourselves the Spinosaurus from PNSO. Here next to the Giganotosaurus, this is the newer Spinosaurus, obviously. And again, as we move through here, I think it just is so impressive how good the paint jobs of these figures are. Like, even the Spinosaurus specifically is fantastic, but the paint application of the new Giga, even though it's nothing overly flashy, looks so good, so natural, so nicely applied. PNSO honestly has improved so much over the years, it is insane. Then we've got ourselves the Acrocanthosaurus here next to our Giganotosaurus from PNSO, again giving you a pretty good idea of the size and the fact that they're not too far off when it comes to his size next to each other. Then we've got everyone's favorite Tyrannosaurus Rex Wilson here next to the Giganotosaurus, and you can definitely see they as well are fairly similar in size, but I'm pretty confident in saying that Wilson is a little bit larger than the Giganotosaurus is. We've also got a nice wide shot here of the Giga next to their Carcharodontosaurus as well, again helping to give you an idea of the size. There is also the Centrosaurus here next to the Giganotosaurus, just for a ceratopsian size comparison. We've also got the PNSO Sinopliosaurus here, again for a comparison, just bringing in quite a few different theropods. And then the final one, because we could sit here and do this all day, we also have the PNSO Carnotaurus next to the Giganotosaurus, just to give you one last comparison. And if you are a PNSO collector, then you hopefully will have had at least a few of these models to give you an idea of the size of this brand new version of the Giganotosaurus. So this brand new version of Lucas the Giganotosaurus from PNSO is yet another really nice release from them. It's another instance of them kind of updating their older sculpt and their older release, because they've done that quite a few times now, like with Wilson and stuff like that. They eventually kind of go the route of giving you the more up-to-date interpretation of that dinosaur, and we yet again have revisited the Giganotosaurus here and, given us a nice updated version, and I think they did a great job as a whole. The sculpt, as per usual, is extremely highly detailed, sporting pretty much every ounce of sculpt and detail and movement and fine detail you would expect to see on a dinosaur. I feel like PNSO may have the absolute most highly detailed sculpts of any company producing dinosaurs. They have that much detail on them, and on top of that, we have a really nice naturalistic paint scheme for the model. Again, nothing overly flashy, nothing overly crazy, but it looks really good, looks really natural as a whole. The actual application of the paint is fantastic. They have added, nice washes and stuff to make the detail pop in the absolute most realistic way, and the transitions are incredibly smooth. The paint scheme itself is, again, nice and natural, and also very reminiscent of what the older paint scheme was for the Giganotosaurus, but I would say a little bit more realistically applied. Even though the paint scheme of the older one, the paint application was really well done, I feel like this one is just a little bit smoother as far as the actual application goes. We also have an articulated jaw, which is always a fun aspect of any PNSO release, and the fact that it's a museum release means it includes a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of extras that are always a fun addition to any set. So, if you are interested in picking up this Giganotosaurus, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on the PNSO Amazon store as well as the Aliexpress store. So, make sure you check the links in the description. Go grab this fantastic Giganotosaurus if you haven't quite yet, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.